I was in a very unhealthy and toxic relationship with my ex-girlfriend for a year and a half, almost 3 years ago. Yeah, we've been separated for about 3 years now. So here's my story. I met her on Tinder, and I'm just going to call her Emma for the sake of this story. I was 18 at the time and she was 26. We chatted on Tinder for like 2 or 3 hours, and then we decided that we wanted to hang out. She was like 40 minutes away from me, though, and neither of us had cars. So I asked my mom if she would take me to her house, and I sort of just told her I was going to a friend's because there is no way in hell she would have took me over there if she knew I was going to meet with a 26-year-old girl from Tinder. Within a half an hour of being there, she gave me an ecstasy pill. For those of you that don't know, it's like a club drug, a drug that you take at parties, and it's supposed to make you feel good and get pumped up. I had heard about ecstasy before, but I had never done it before at that point in time, so it was my first time doing it. We had a good night and we had lots of fun. So skip forward to about 2 weeks. I'm still at Emma's house. Pretty much the whole time I was there. We were just getting drunk and going to parties. I asked her to be my girlfriend and she said yes. We were pretty much already together, but just to make it official, I asked her. My mom didn't take it very well. However, she actually eventually accepted us being together. I think she was mostly just upset because she felt like I lied to her anyway. She had no idea about what's going on behind closed doors. She had no clue about the drugs and alcohol we were doing or any of that. Throughout our year-and-a-half relationship, almost every single bit of it was toxic. It was toxic from the minute it started even. I would say at least 50% of the time. We were messed up on something. Whether it was alcohol, weed, ecstasy, you name it. There were tons and tons of other things that happened between us as well. But I'm just going to get to the main part of the story. Skip forward to the day we broke up. We got into an argument. She started accusing me of cheating, and she said that she went through my phone and read messages between me and a best friend of mine that I've had since I was like 12 years old. She was accusing me of flirting with her back and forth, and she kept saying that I liked this girl. She was just going absolutely crazy on me. She was throwing things all around in the house and breaking stuff. I tried my best to calm her down and I took her to our room because we literally had company over. My best friend was there, along with his girlfriend, and my dad and some of Emma's friends were there as well. We were just having a small party and we were all drinking and just having a good time. I was starting to get embarrassed by Emma's behavior, though, as my best friend witnessed the whole thing. Everybody else was outside, though, in the backyard by the fire, and I didn't want them seeing what was going on, so I tried to calm her down, like I said. When we got into the room, though, that's when she really lost it. She started hitting me and throwing things at me and threatening me with a kitchen knife that she picks up. She even started chasing me around the room with it. I ran outside and grabbed my dad to let him know what was happening, but then my dad and her got into a screaming match and she even threatened him with a knife. Eventually, my dad and I left with my best friend and his girlfriend, and I never saw her again after that. She's been trying to get in contact with me ever since we broke up. Even though she has a kid now and she's married, she still tries to talk to me, which I have ignored her every single time. I was a very depressed kid who got taken advantage of. I never touched a drug a day in my life before I met Emma, but as soon as I met her, she threw drugs in my face and took advantage of me by preying on my emotional trauma and my immaturity to the world. I had literally just turned 18 years old 2 weeks before I met her, and she turned 27 3 months after we met. She was practically 9 years older than me, which was most definitely a red flag in itself right there. Something that always stuck with me, though, was when I first met her, the first thing she said to me was that I was never going to see my family again. Maybe it was just a harmless joke, but thinking back on it now, given the circumstances of everything, I started to piece it all together. It's like she was planning this. She was seducing me with drugs and just purely taking advantage of me. I've been completely sober since the day we broke up, with the occasional drink or two with the boys at the bar, but that's it. I have a new girlfriend now, and we are in a very healthy relationship. When I was 22, I moved to a new city only 20 minutes away. I was pretty familiar with the area, but I didn't know anyone there. I moved because it was closer to my new job and to where I was going to start school very soon. I picked up this new part-time job being a bartender at a nearby local bar in town, which was literally only half a mile from my apartment. It was actually a good job, and I liked it there. For the most part. I would make anywhere from $180 and even up to $300 a night sometimes. I only worked 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. One of my coworkers, who was also a bartender, only worked on Fridays with me. I kind of liked him because he was really handsome and charming, and he was always a gentleman. He was my type and his name was Noah, but he had a girlfriend, so I never made any advances towards him out of respect for him and his relationship. But I kept my thoughts in the back of my mind. One Friday at work, I could tell he was upset and that there was something wrong because he wasn't being himself. I asked him if he was all right, and he told me that he was all good and that he wasn't sure why I was asking him that. He told me he was just tired. A little bit later, when I went outside for my break, I noticed he was outside as well and that he was crying. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it, and he ended up confiding in me. He told me that he was having a hard time and that he just found out recently that his girlfriend cheated on him. I gave him my condolences, and I asked him if he wanted to hang out after work in case he needed a friend to talk to in turn, which he pleasantly accepted. He came over and we got drunk and had a good time. But over time, the more drunk he got, the less I wanted to be around him, if I'm being honest. He kind of started acting hostile and passive-aggressive. But I let it go because I knew that he was really upset about his girlfriend. And then he ended up leaving shortly after we had our adult time in the bedroom. He came over almost every night after that, and at that point, we were pretty much together, like in a relationship. At least I felt that way, anyways. But our little relationship only lasted like 2 weeks, because the last time he came over, I saw a whole different side of him. At first, everything was normal, and we were having a good time, like usual. He came over to my apartment and we went for a late night walk on the trails, and we went swinging at the park nearby. I literally don't even remember what triggered our argument, but we both got really heated, and he ended up hitting me and choking me until I passed out, and he left me on the trails where we were walking. Some kid eventually came across me while riding his bike through the trails, and he helped me by calling the cops and getting me to safety. I later found out that Noah's girlfriend never cheated on him and that he had just been physically abusive to her the whole relationship, and it led to her breaking up with him and him not accepting the fact after. He just hates women. As far as I understand, as much as I despise him, I really hope that he gets the help he needs, not only for his sake, but for the sake of the woman he will meet in the future, too. I used to go out with this one girl named Layla. We were very close at one point in time, and we were together for a full 2 years, which was a long time for me, considering we were high schoolers and that most of my friends and their significant others wouldn't last more than 2 months at best. We ended up mutually breaking up for about a month, though, because we were both going to different colleges and at the time we weren't sure it was going to work. We were both living on campus and her college was a 2-hour drive from mine. So with going to school and working an almost full-time job, there was just too much going on and we didn't think that it would work out, plain and simple. I'm one of those people that needs time alone in order to be happy in my relationship, and I feel like that's pretty normal. Even though we were broken up with me working and going to school, I felt like I didn't have enough me time anyways, and we ended up getting back together a little over a month after we broke up. So basically we were going to try and work on a relationship after all. I really cared about her dearly, and I thought she was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So fast forward another month. I left campus to go visit my family for the week because I missed them and I wasn't used to spending large amounts of time away from them. My family and I are very close. I have 2 brothers, 1 sister, and of course, my parents. I'm the oldest of the bunch. So I'm sort of like the role model for all of my siblings. My family lives in your average suburban American home in a nice, calm neighborhood, and it was just nice to be back home. I told my girlfriend Layla that I was going home for 2 weeks to spend time with my family, and she was really happy for me and supportive, so nothing out of the ordinary just yet. But on my third or fourth night at my parents' house, I noticed my girlfriend was starting to act weird. I could just tell there was something wrong by the way she was texting me. She ensured that nothing was wrong, but I knew deep down that she was lying. She ended up asking me if I wanted to hang out for the day, and I told her that I'd love to, but I already made plans to take one of my little brothers to the rec so we could go swimming and play basketball. That was when everything took a sharp turn. She started blowing my phone up with messages, and it got to the point to where I couldn't even finish reading a message before she would send another one, therefore not even allowing me to reply. So I just decided to turn my phone on silent and go on about my day. I figured she was just having a moment and she would calm down soon, but I was wrong. I looked at my phone about an hour later, and I kid you not, there were literally over 100 messages and 20 plus missed phone calls, and I had completely out of character for her and not something that she would usually do. She was having a complete mental breakdown for no reason. She told me she was going to commit suicide, and she accused me of cheating. I mean, the accusations were endless, along with all the messages. Like, some of these individual texts had, like, 3 or 4 paragraphs each. It was insane. I didn't even read them all because there were that many messages. I texted her back, and I kept it brief. I just told her she was overreacting, and I denied all the accusations because they weren't true at all. Anyways, when my brother and I got home from the rec, I went to my bathroom in my bedroom so I could shower. When I got out, Layla was sitting on my bed with her arms crossed. I legit thought I was dreaming for a second, so I rubbed my eyes to make sure that she was really there. My parents let her in the house because they didn't have the slightest clue about what was going on, as I didn't think to tell them. Plus, I didn't think that Layla would actually legit show up to my house. I broke up with her right then and there, and I told her that she needed to leave. Then she threatened to tell my parents that I was physically abusive to her if I didn't sit down and talk with her, which was not true at all. It was a very horrible thing to lie about. She was being very manipulative, but I wasn't falling for it, and I knew my parents wouldn't believe her. Especially after I showed them the messages she had been sending me. So she showed up to my house against my will and was trying to gaslight and manipulate me into talking to her. It got to the point where I just had enough, and I had to have my dad get her out of my room and get her out of the house. My dad literally had to yell at her to get her to leave because he was arguing with her for over 5 minutes about her leaving. It was the most embarrassing thing that I've ever been through. As soon as she left, I blocked her on everything I could think of, and I haven't spoke to her since, nor have I seen her since I found out that she got with my best friend a week after we broke up. I feel like it was an attempt to hurt me or to get my attention. Either way, I turned a blind eye to the whole situation. As much as it really did make me upset, I wasn't going to give in and give her that gratification. I cut them both completely out of my life, even my best friend, because obviously he wasn't my best friend if he could do that to me. I've since made way better friends and I've been way happier. As for Layla, though, I'm not so sure she could say the same. I've been getting random message requests from her on Instagram because she keeps making new accounts to try and reach out to me. One of the times she reached out, she actually apologized to me, and another time she was completely going off the rails, telling me about how much she hated me. It's just crazy because at one point, this was the girl I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I just never saw her as the person that she truly was. I'm glad she showed me before we had kids or ended up getting married or something. I truly dodged a bullet there.